Welcome back to the channel, everybody. If revenues are declining in your online business and you don't have much money to acquire new customers or money to pay for new installs, then the best thing to do is to leverage your database and to identify and retarget churned monetizers. So in today's walkthrough, we are going to recreate the analysis behind me, which leverages your database to return your churn monetizers along with their total lifetime revenue that they generated while they were active with your online business. So this is a super useful, free, and easy solution to help return revenue to your online business. And today I'm going to show you how to do this in MySQL. Okay, so here we are in MySQL, and the first thing we're going to do is use our fact player logins table, which is just a table that houses our customers and their logins with your online business. So I'm going to pull a few records just so that you can see this data. So here it is right here. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to return the max login date per customer. So let's do that right now. And we can just call this max login date. And remember, because it's an aggregate function, make sure to group by customer ID. Okay. And let's pull a few records here. Okay, great. So here we have each of our customers with our max login date. Now, what we're going to do is go to our revenue table. So this is just a table of revenue transactions per customer. And we are going to aggregate revenue by customer ID. So this should just be called fact player revenue. And all we simply need to do is just a simple aggregate function, just a simple sum of revenue, and basically group that by customer ID. So we'll do the purchase amount. And in case there are any nulls in this column, we can just convert those nulls to zeros, and then we can just sum this, and we can just call this lifetime revenue per customer. And then remember, let's just group this by customer ID. We want revenue by customer ID. And let's pull a few records just to make sure this query runs. Okay, great. So let's round that revenue to the second decimal place. Let me rerun this. Okay, that's looking good. So we can call this subselect up here, logins. And remember, that's just the max login date per customer. And then we can call this subselect here, just revenue. And what we're going to do is join these two tables together. And it's going to be an inner join, which means based on the join key condition, the record has to exist in both of these subselects. Because what we want is we're only interested in looking at monetizers. So this first subselect here, it includes all customers, even non-monetizers. So we want to make sure that we drop the non-monetizers and that the resulting data just has monetizers, or people that have some sort of purchase history, aka they must also be in this revenue subselect right here. Okay. So let's bring in the columns from our first subselect, which is the login subselect. So we want the customer ID. We also want the max login date. And then we want to do an inner join. So we want to make sure that the customer has a max login date and that they also have some lifetime revenue. So again, what that will do is it'll remove the non-monetizers and it will return a data set that only includes customers with purchase history. So monetizers. Monetizers only. So let me give you a better view of what's going on. So here's our first subselect here, logins. Here's our second subselect here, which is revenue. And then we're doing an inner join on customer ID, meaning the customer ID must exist in this subselect and this one in order to be returned up here. That's what the inner join does. And then of course we want to bring in lifetime revenue per customer. So let's do revenue dot lifetime revenue. And let's pull a few records to make sure this works. Okay, this is looking good. Now let's take this and put all of this into a larger subselect and call it customers. This is fine. So what this is it's just a table of customers that have some lifetime revenue and their max login date, right? The last time they logged in. So what we're going to do is if the max login date is greater than or equal to 30 days ago based on today's date, then we're going to call that customer churned, and we're going to begin counting those customers basically on their churn date and any subsequent date in the future so that we get a full count of churned monetizers along with their lifetime revenue. So to do this, let's temporarily forget about that subselect and look at another table here. And we've got a date table that's really useful. So I would highly recommend having a date table in your data warehouse. But we're going to call this date table that we have as dim date. And as you can see, the second column is just a column of dates, beginning with the day that your online business launched up through the present. So we're going to use this table and join to this larger subselect called customers here to count the number of churned customers per day, and then getting a running total or a cumulative count of churned monetizers along with their total lifetime revenue that they generated in your app when they were active. That way, you know not only how many churn monetizers you're retargeting, but also what the revenue potential is. Okay, so let's do this. We can call this date table dates. And then we just want to do a left join over to this customers subselect down here. And we'll do it based on, we'll say if the difference in days between the value in the date column in table 1, so right here, and customers dot max login date is greater than or equal to 30. Okay, great. So here is what this join condition means. So it's saying if the difference in days between this date and the customer's max login date is greater than or equal to 30 days, then bring across the data from this customer's subselect down here. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to bring in terms of our final table, we're going to bring in the date. So this column right here. And then what we are going to do is we're going to add a case statement here and just say case when this date difference is equal to 30, then we're going to count the number of churn monetizers from table 2. So I will explain this again. This join right here is cumulative logic. It's saying if the difference in days between this date and the customer's max login date is greater than or equal to, greater than being the important term than 30, then bring across the data in this customer's subselect. So, and then up here what we're doing is saying if it's exactly 30 days, then count the number of churn monetizers. So what this is doing is this join logic is bringing across all of the eligible data from table 2 from this customer subselect when the difference in days is greater than or equal to 30. So that's the cumulative logic that's bringing in all of those records from table 2. This logic right here, rather than saying greater than or equal to 30, it's saying 30 because we want to know the number of monetizers that became churned on this exact date. And the reason why is because once we take this over to Excel, we're going to audit it in Excel and just make sure that the summation of this column on a daily basis is equal to the cumulative value, so that we're basically validating and verifying that this join, this cumulative join, or this join with cumulative logic is working down here. Okay, so that being the case, all we need to do is to do a count distinct here to get the cumulative count of churned monetizers. So we'll just do a count distinct right here, and we can just call this cumulative churn monetizers. And then just as likely, all we need to do is bring in the lifetime revenue column right here, and then just do a summation of this to get cumulative lifetime revenue for those churned monetizers. And then because this is an aggregate function, we just need to group down here by the date column in the date table in table 1, add a semicolon, and then basically just run this data. So again, I'm going to step through what we did really quickly just as a refresher. So we went to our customer's login table. We're taking the max login date. And then we created another subselect that had us going to our customer revenue table and just doing a summation of revenue by customer. We did an inner join between these two subselects to make sure that in this logins table, we only keep monetizers. We remove the non-monetizers. So we successfully did that with this join right here. And then we put this in a larger subselect called customers. Then we went to our dates table, and we basically joined this dates table to our customer subselect, where the difference in days between the date in the dates column and the customer's max login date was greater than or equal to 30. And again, this join right here allows records to flow in from table 2 based on cumulative logic. And up in these aggregate functions, we're basically doing a count of churn monetizers on the day. This is just for validation or for validating the cumulative data that's being brought across. And then for our cumulative columns, we're just doing a count of customers from table 2, and then just a sum of lifetime revenue from table 2. So let's run this now and move it over to Excel once we get our data. Okay, so here is our data, and you'll notice something that's immediately strange. For the first 30 records or dates, we have 0, right? And then after that, we begin to see our data. So the reason why is because, as you can see here, and then also here, we're using this integer value of 30. And I was going to clarify this, but we can do that now, which is we are defining churned as 30 days since a customer's last login. So right here we're saying, you know, if they're 30 or more days from their last login, they are churned. If it's the 30th day, then this is their churn date. So what that means is for the first 30 days that your online business launched or went live, basically there are no churned monetizers. And the reason why is there has to be a full 30 days before a player or customer can be regarded as churned. So if there are less than 30 days since your online business went live, you won't be able to calculate the churn number of monetizers. And as you can see here, we don't get churn monetizers until November 7, 2022, which is 30 days after your online business or this online business went live. Okay, so let's take this over to Excel and recreate that analysis. Okay, so here we are. The most important thing we want to do is first we want to check to make sure that our cumulative columns are working correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to sum our churned monetizers column. So this is the number of monetizers that went churned on these exact dates. And you'll notice that we get 4,602 churn monetizers, and that exactly matches the cumulative amount here in our final row, row 731. So that's fantastic. We know that this works. So let's build this analysis really quick. I'm going to call this date. And all we want to know as a marketer that's retargeting a churned or lapsed monetizer population is how many churn monetizers are there and how much lifetime revenue did they generate in my online business when they were last active. Okay. So let me turn the cumulative churn monetizers into an area chart, and then we can just put the lifetime revenue on a second axis. And here you go. This is actually pretty fantastic. So for this demo online business, you see that with the query we just wrote, we were able to identify about 4,500 churned monetizers, or purchasers or monetizers or paying customers to your online business that haven't interacted with your business in 30 or more days based on today's present date. And not only that, we know that these lapsed or churn monetizers, when they were last active in your app, in total, this group of customers generated $200,000 of revenue for your business. So this is amazing. It's great because now you have a population of customers that have a proven record of paying $200,000 that's now available for you to retarget. And again, this is a really fantastic strategy and a free strategy to bring revenue back to your business without having to pay extra money to acquire new customers. I really hope that today's tutorial helped, and please let me know if there are any questions. Please continue to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much.